Alright, so we are continuing on our journey of learning about the tabbing method, which I use to storyboard in Photoshop. I wanted to go over all the hotkeys I use and how to set them, and then I wanted to show you an overview of all the actions I use while storyboarding. In the video after this, I'll also go over the radial menu, which I find really useful for keeping up the speed and efficiency in my workflow, but for now let's just stick with the hotkeys and actions. And first things first, we need to know how to set the hotkeys for all the stuff that lives in these Photoshop menus. All you have to do is go to Edit and then Keyboard Shortcuts to start changing and assigning them. I personally like having most of my storyboarding tools set to the function keys, just because I find them pretty easy to memorize and find whenever I'm working quickly. But obviously you should do whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay, so the first hotkey we'll set is Duplicate Image. Just click the image arrow and scroll down until you find Duplicate. I've set it to F8. And just a quick reminder, we use Duplicate Image so we can make an exact copy of the storyboard panel we're on. That way we can propagate all of our layers quickly and then pick and choose the ones we want to onion skin and draw over. Next big hotkey we're going to set is Duplicate Layer. This is located in the Layer menu, and it probably says Duplicate Layer Group, which is fine. I set my hotkey for this to be Command F8, just so all my duplicate tools are some form of F8. It's just easier to remember for me. Okay, so here's what Duplicate Layer does. Let's say I already have this series of storyboards drawn out and saved. If I want to go back in and add new layers to this set of boards, like this tree layer, I think the Duplicate Layer tool is the way to do that, because most importantly, it preserves any Photoshop adjustments you've made to that layer, such as opacity. If you only use Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V to copy and paste the pixels, you have to make those adjustments manually again for each panel. I know that's a pretty complicated explanation, so let me just show you again how it works. Let's say I want to add a rock in the foreground. First thing I do is draw the rock. Next, let's say I want to bring its opacity down to 40% for some reason. So now, the quickest way to clone this rock layer into all the other storyboard panels in the sequence is by pressing my Duplicate Layer hotkey, and then I choose whatever panel I want to duplicate it to in the pull-down menu, and then press OK. And that not only makes an exact copy of that layer, but it also includes all of the layer modifications, including the 40% opacity. If you happen to find this process too repetitive, I also found this script called Duplicate Layers to all open documents. I just have to select the layers I want duplicated, then go up to File, Scripts, and then click Duplicate Layers to all open documents. It works perfectly. Full credit to the person who wrote it, Cameron McAfee. You can download it from their blog here. Okay, next hotkey I recommend setting is the Match All hotkey. To get to it, you have to go to the Window section and then find Match All. I set my hotkey to be F2, and if you remember, this will take the zoom, location, and rotation of all the other panels and match them to the panel you're currently on. So if one of my panels is at 66% zoom and the others are at 100%, I just press my Match All hotkey and it'll match all the other panels to be at 66% zoom. Absolutely essential when doing this tabbing method. Alright, now on to my custom actions and their hotkeys. So the first one that I always have is my new storyboard template, and my hotkey for this is F5. And I'll just reassign F5 to different aspect ratios depending on the project I'm on and what aspect ratio they're using. The action itself is somewhat complicated, but it's not that hard if you understand the basics of how to create actions. I'll just give a quick step-by-step demo of it, just in case you want to venture into making your own. So first, it makes a new document, which matches exactly the aspect ratio that you're using, and then it slowly extends the canvas with either black or white as a background, depending on if it's creating a border or a white space, and then it's going to clear out the border from some spots, purely for aesthetic reasons. Then it adds the text, flattens the layers, then it cuts a window for where you're going to draw under the template overlay. Then it locks the template overlay so you can't accidentally draw on top of that layer. And then it creates the first drawing layer below it. So it is complicated, but it also works well. Okay, on to my next action. Here is the Fill White Space Behind action, which I've set to F3. Let's see how this works. Say we've got our character on a gray background. If we wanted to paint white behind them so they stand out, as long as all the gaps are filled in on the drawing, you just have to use the magic wand tool and then select anywhere but the character. Then you just use this action and it'll instantly fill white behind the character. The action just uses 3 steps: inverse selection, contract selection, and fill selection with white. Pretty simple. Next action is my onion skin action. This is also super simple, and it just sets the opacity of the currently selected layer or layers to be 12%. I've set this hotkey to be F12. After that, I've got Flip Horizontal set as an action. My hotkey for this is Command F12 or Control F12 when I'm on PC. And this is just the Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal menu item turned into an action. I constantly use this to check my drawings to make sure there's nothing wonky about them. I also use Flip Horizontal as a storyboarding shortcut. For example, let's say I have to board the camera rotating around a character. All I have to do is draw 3 drawings, and then I can flip the rest horizontally. Honestly, there's a million uses for flipping horizontal, which is why I turned it into an easy-to-hit hotkey. Next, we've got my new color layer action. This one only works if your drawing layer already has a white mat behind it. I've set this action's hotkey to be Shift F12. And what this action does is it creates a new clipping layer on top of your drawing layer. And if you're not aware of what a clipping layer does, it basically locks all the transparent pixels around it, so you can't draw beyond it. So now, when I try and draw, all I can do is draw on whatever pixels are already there. And the nice thing about this is that I can change the color layer to be whatever I need it to be without changing the original drawing layer below. I use this all the time as a really quick shortcut to give the character tone or color. The final action I use all the time is expand and fill. I use this because I don't like the way it looks in Photoshop when you fill something simply using the bucket tool. It always leaves this weird, jagged, aliased line around the fill. All you have to do is use the magic wand tool to select the area you want to fill, and then the action expands the selection and fills it with a foreground color. Now, the hotkey for this action is actually one I never press. The reason I never press it is because I only trigger it by using the subject of the next video, the radial menu. See you there.